Yamunatiravanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. So today we are going to talk about Karma Yoga. We'll see, it's a long enough chapter. We'll see how far we can get. If not, we will use a second session. It's 43, so it looks like we will need a second session. So let's start. So first I will read the Sanskrit. You can repeat after me, and then we'll get into the translation and the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Arjuna Uvacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Jayasi Chet Karmanaste
Jayasi Yasit Karmanaste
Mata Buddhir Janardana
Mata Buddhir Janardana
Tat Kim Karmani Ghore Mam
Tatkim Karmani Gore Mam
Niyojayasi Keshavam.
Niyojayasi Keshava.
So Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want me to engage in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Because in chapter 2, which is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, oh, intelligence is better than work. Right? And then natural question Arjuna says, if that is true, then why should I even fight? So that sets the stage for Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2 is more or less like the science of the soul. You are not the body, you are the soul. So, how many people are convinced that we are not the body? Nobody? Somebody?
Convinced, Prabhuji.
Yeah, you should
Theoretically
read my
convinced.
book, Science of Reincarnation. It is coming up soon with the help of Sachin Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Prabhu. Sent that off last night to the printers. He identified the printer and coordinated all of that activity. So, we need to basically, at least theoretically, agree that we are not the body, we are the soul. Otherwise, rest of the Bhagavad Gita will not be strong enough, right? So that's why chapter 2 is very, very critical. Okay, somebody want to read the purport? Divya, read the purport.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter, with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief, and the path of realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place, where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or Buddhi Yoga or intelligence in spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse, but as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga or work in Krishna consciousness in this third chapter.
So, karma yoga means you're doing karma, you're still doing activity. Sometimes people will say, oh, I'll just go, live in a cave or live inside my home, in my heart, just chant Hare Krishna. That may give some cheap adoration. Means people will say, oh, he's a good devotee, but doesn't mean that it's real. And the other name for Karma Yoga is Buddhi Yoga. Why? Because you're using your Buddhi, your intelligence to act on that platform. Okay? Text 2. Vyamisreneva vakyena
व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन
buddhim mohaya sivame
Buddhim mohaya
Moya
simame.
Sima Veme.
Siva May, right? So in the Hindi it
Sivame.
is May here. Tadekam vada nishchityam
Tadekam
Tadakam Vada
vadanyashitya
Nishchita.
yena shreyo aham apnuyam.
yena shreyo aham.
Eham Shreyo Hamapnuyam.
Yeah. So this little apostrophe is a, right? It's not full a, right? It's it's not like that. It's a. So yena shreyo aham apnuyam. Aham means me, right?
Yes.
So ekam means only one. So what is that one thing? What is Arjuna saying? My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Equivocal means sometimes you are saying this, sometimes you are saying that. And he's saying my intelligence is bewildered, means confused. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Natural, right? Okay, Halin, please read.
In the previous chapter, as prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruitive desires, and the position of the neophyte. This was all presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Although Krishna has no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah. So Arjuna is playing the proxy. Proxy means on behalf of. So he's asking these questions so that we can get a clear understanding. Again, there were different paths explained in second chapter. Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, this yoga, that yoga, right? Multiple paths, Ashtanga Yoga. Now, Arjuna is saying, okay, give me clear guidance. Equivocal means don't give me Bahushaka, like don't give me too many instructions, which makes sense. Okay, let's go to text 3. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri
Sri
Bhagavan
Bhagavano
Vacha
Vacha.
Lokesmin Dvividha Nishta
Lokesmin
Lokesmin Divida Nishta.
Dvividha
Dvida.
Lokesmin Dvividha Nishta
Lokesmin
Kesmin Dvivida Nishta.
Dvividhanishta
Pura Prokta Mayanaga
Pura
Pura Prokta Maya Naga.
Mayanaga
Jnana Yogena Sankyanam
Jnana
Jnana
Yogena
Yogena
Sankyanam.
Karma Yogena Yoginam.
Karma
Karma Yogena Yogina.
Yoginam.
Very good. So, the Supreme Personality of God, it said, right? This is very important. People say Sri Bhagavan Uvacha in the Bhagavad Gita is there, right? Some people say it is not the person Krishna, but it is the unmanifest Brahman. But when clearly it says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bhagavan is a person, right? Uvacha means he is speaking. How can some people say that this is not Krishna speaking, but somebody else speaking? There is so much confusion in the name of Hinduism going on, right? Because what happens is, I was just reading some article today where they said that how Islam has infiltrated Hinduism or Vedic Sanatan Dharma. So some of those other concepts have entered where God is not a person. But here it clearly says Sri Bhagavan Vacha. Categorically it says. So Supreme Personality of God, it said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Dvivida. Do in one language is two. Two in English. Do in Hindi. Dvi in Sanskrit. So they all mean the same thing. There are two kinds of people. Some are inclined to understand by empirical philosophical speculation. Empirical means like some kind of an equation, or by philosophical wrangling. Maybe it's like this, like that. theorizing, speculating, and others by devotional service. So, this is why when you talk to people in general, they won't come to Krishna consciousness because they're trying to rationalize it through empirical, philosophical views, which is so kind of challenging, right? Okay, so who can read this? Whoever has not read, please read it.
In the second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is a subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work in Krishna consciousness, as it is explained in the 61st verse of second chapter. The Lord has explained also in the 39th verse that by working by the principles of Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be relieved from the bonds of action, and furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse that this Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically, on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogis are interdependent as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment or sometimes fanaticism, while philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. The indirect process is philosophical speculation by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness, and the other process is directly connecting everything with Krishna.
Hold on just a minute, the page up. Yes, go ahead.
Of this too, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by a philosophical process. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process, and by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime.
Yeah. So two processes are described here, two types of yoga, right? One is empirical, philosophical speculation, the Jnana Marga. The second is the Bhakti Marga, which is devotional service. So normally there is devotion, but then Srila Prabhupada translates this as devotional service, which means that you actually have to do seva, practical seva, like washing dishes in the temple, cleaning the kitchen floor or the temple floor, making garlands for the Lord, raising funds for the Lord. All these are considered devotional service. And the first one, philosophical speculation, is difficult because you need to have some kind of a academic scholarly thinking, which some people have, but most people don't have that. And it takes a long time also, that empirical analysis. The other process is just devotional service. Like other day, somebody was saying, "Oh yeah, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Goswami was trying to explain so many concepts using scientific language, but then he found that just giving a plate of prasadam is actually more powerful because with that plate of prasadam, the purifying is happening much faster, and they will be less argumentative, and then the knowledge can be imparted in a right way." So there are two processes, but the process of devotion is both the means and the end. Means to purify, you don't need to do something separate. You just keep doing Krishna consciousness, devotional service, and automatically purification occurs. 3.4 Na karmanam anarambhan
Na karmanam
Arambam.
naishkarmyam purushosnute
Naishkarmyam
Naishkarmyam Purushoshnuте
nacha sanyasanad eva
Nacha Sanyasanad Eva
Siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Siddhim samadhi.
Siddhim samadhi gacchati.
Gacchati means attaining something. What are you attaining? The siddhi of the samadhi. Like if you even look at the normal Ashtanga yoga process, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. The 8-stage process, eightfold Ashtanga yoga process. Final step is always samadhi, but here you are not getting to samadhi through Ashtanga yoga process, although you can do it mechanically. Here you are achieving the same thing by devotion, which is pleasing to the heart. It's not too complex, and you can do it as a part of day-to-day activity. Every day, anyhow, you're cooking, so cook for Krishna. Eating, so eat for Krishna. Working, so work for Krishna, like that. So everything, when you dovetail, it becomes a little easier. So in this translation, Srila Prabhupada says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction. Neither nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So there are different paths, right? So there is the karma sannyasa marga. Oh, I won't do the work. It's a headache. I'll get reactions. But then how long can you sit idle? Right? It's not possible. Second thing is nor by renunciation. Okay, I'll give up everything. That also is not sustainable. So Krishna consciousness is the means and the end. So you're not stressing yourself too much. You're just singing, you're dancing, you're still doing some activity, but in this case, you're not acting for yourself, but you're acting for Krishna. Right? Same activity, like maybe you are making puri at home and just eating, and second, you are making puri at home and offering it to the temple deities, Kalachanji, and so on, and you are eating. Same activity, but the results are entirely different because one of the consciousnesses, first one is I am doing it for myself. The second consciousness is I am doing it for the Supreme Lord. So, same activity becomes transcendental or very purifying, like that. Okay, so Halin, maybe you can read this.
Renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of prescribed form of duties, which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life sannyasa. According to the empirical philosophers, simply by adopting sannyasa or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once becomes as good as Narayana. But Lord Krishna does not approve this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of the Lord, to the transcendental service of the Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whenever whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord Buddhi Yoga. So swalpa api asya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Even a slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties.
Yeah, Swalpam. Swalpam means very little. Asya dharmasya. Of what? Dharma. Dharmic activity. Trayate mahato bayat. The great danger is we may not get a human body. You might become like an animal or a plant or a bird. So at least we have to do a little bit, slight performance. Then we can overcome great difficulty. Because if you fall into animal species, then you cannot do this. So at least we should come back to human being, and better still, born in the family of a devotee, so that they will train you from young age, and the journey continues. Renounced order of life, sannyasa, is very difficult, right? You need that purification and the training, otherwise you'll make mistakes. Like the great sage Vishwamitra himself fell down right when Menaka came and started dancing. It just the ankle bells, just the ting 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 ting, the tingling of the ankle bells that women wear in dances, that was sufficient to distract his attention. So that kind of sannyas won't work. I mean, in ISKCON we have sannyasis that's more for preaching purposes. Then they're saying take up to transcendental service of the Lord, seva, and even if you miss out a few things in your day-to-day discharge, that's fine. Right? For example, you become a brahmachari, you go join an ashram, and your mother says, "Oh, what happened to my son? He became crazy. He joined the brahmachari ashram." And you still meet your mother, but not regular basis, only once in a while. So on the one hand, you have failed in your duty as a son to the mother, but on the other hand, it doesn't really matter because you are doing the higher seva for the Supreme Lord. So the lower level of sevas, if you neglect them, you will get some bad karma. But in this case, you are taking up a higher level of seva. So what happens? You don't get that reaction. And then purification is happening in the heart. It's all about purification, right? Because we have been contaminated for millions of lifetimes in a certain way. Now we are trying to kind of course correct, change direction a little bit, and that may or may not be well received by the society, but that's okay. I mean, as long as you follow the scriptural rules and regulations, you are protected. We are protected. 3.5 Nahi kasyat kshanamapi
Nahi kaschit kshanamapi
jatu tishtati akarmakrit
jatu tishtati akarmakrit
karyate hi avasah karma
karyate hi avashah karma
sarvah prakriti jair gunaihi.
sarvaha prakriti jayar gunai.
So if there's a H and a dot below it, then you have to drop that sound. So it's not gunai, it is gunai hi, because you are putting, you have a dot below the H in English, and in Sanskritam you have these two dots next. You will have two dots next to it. You have to drop that sound. Everyone, Krishna is saying, is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. So, where do we acquire these qualities?
Modes of nature.
Hmm?
From modes of material nature.
Yeah. So, what is the Sanskrit term for that?
Guna.
Gunas. Guna means rope, guna means modes. So, it's got multiple meanings. One of them is rope. So, when you look at the meaning of the rope, guna actually binds you, it ties you down. So, if you are in the mode of ignorance, you are walking past a liquor store or a smoke shop, you'll automatically turn into the shop. Why? Because it's not like you are running the show. The modes are running the show, they'll just pull you there. That is why certain amount of purification is required so that you don't get attracted to that aspect. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says it's not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. So you cannot sit and do meditation because the nature of the soul is it wants to be active. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness, otherwise, it will be engaged in the occupations dictated by the illusory energy. So, Srila Prabhupada said once in one of his lecture, If you don't dance for Krishna, you'll dance for Maya. Right? So voluntarily, if we don't take up to Krishna consciousness, what will happen? Maya will be more strong. There'll be layoffs in the office. So many things. Right now, you are trying to do X, you'll get result Y, which happens to all of us on a daily basis. Only when we take to Krishna consciousness does the challenge reverse itself. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 says, Tyaktva swadharman charanambujam harer bhajanapako tapate tato yadi yatra kvava bhadramabudamusya kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmataham. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though you may fall down from this standard, there is no loss or evil. So, better to start. Even if you fail initially, you're still not at loss because you still have some bank balance of this Krishna consciousness. So, the purificatory process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Sannyasa or any purificatory process is to help reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. Right? Sometimes people, they work very hard, take care of the family, raise the kids, put the kids in Harvard, MIT, then they get their jobs, and after a while they stop neglecting. They start neglecting their parents. So whatever investment you put in for 30 years in the family life, the results may be practically nothing. So it's all a loss. All the late nights, all the money you made, all the training you gave, everything is gone. Right? So in the materialistic life, usually everything ends up in a some kind of a loss. Because there is no goal of becoming conscious of Krishna. That is the challenge. So, any thoughts or questions on this one?
So without expectation, parents should get their
No, without
children.
expectation is one aspect, but the more important aspect is whatever you do ultimately will just go away, other than Krishna consciousness. Right? Whatever you do, like, I worked for many companies and suddenly funds will dry up, they'll say, okay, lay off. So, whatever you invested in the last 2 to 3 years before in human relationships, in learning new skills, everything is lost. Again, you join a new company, again, everything starts fresh. Everything is lost. And this has happened to me personally, and I'm sure you are too young for a lot of things to happen yet for you. But if you live the next 30 years in America, then you will realize that you're investing and you're losing that. Nothing is happening. And again, the clock resets itself. But the only thing is, if you take up to Krishna consciousness, whatever little chanting you do, little seva you do in the temple, little preaching that you do to other friends and relatives, that will stay with you. Everything else is gone. Reset. And the biggest reset, you know what the biggest reset is? It's called death. So, whatever you invested for the last 70 years, everything comes to zero. And then again, the soul enters a new body in the tummy of a mummy. And then you take birth again. Everything starts from fresh. Again, you have to go to school. Again, you have to go to college. Again, you have to look for a job, find a spouse, And we have been doing this for millions of lifetimes. Because we forget, right? Everything. Again, you're born in the next lifetime, you forget. But then Krishna, that's where he says that if you do a little bit of service to me, I will remind you in the next life. So if you do 1% this lifetime, next lifetime will start with 1.01, and from there you build up again. So he will personally take that. He will put some devotee in your path so that you can take up to this knowledge and go back. Ultimately, we have to purify the soul. Whether you do it all in one lifetime or you do it across 1,000 lifetimes, the choice is with us. So we better wake up. Okay, 3.6. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran
Yaste manasa smaran
indriyarthan vimudhatma
indriyarthan vimudatma
mityacharasa uchyate.
mithyachara charahas sauchyate
Mityachara sa uchyate.
mithyacharah sauchyate.
Mithya means illusory. Achara means somebody who is practicing that illusory activity, which is essentially pretender. Srila Prabhupada translates in English. Huh? So karma indriyani, what are the 5 working sense organs? Hands, legs, right? Etc. Genitals, rectum. So those are the working sense organs. Gyanendriyas are what? What are Gyanendriyas?
Eyes, nose,
Huh?
eyes, nose,
Vision.
Yeah,
ears.
eyes, nose. They are sensors, right? So we have these sensors to understand the external world. Eyes see, ears hear, those kind of things. Here he's talking about Karmendriya, but Gyanendriya he'll talk about elsewhere. Usually our senses go out of control means our Gyanendriyas are going out of control. Karmendriyas are just follower senses, right? Eyes see something beautiful, they want to go, like in a nice rose on the plant, you want to go pluck the rose. Then the Karmendriya will follow. The legs will walk towards that, hands will go take a scissors and cut the rose. But it all stands with Gyanendriya. That's how our control means really Gyanendriya control. Karmendriyas are usually subordinate. And Vimudhatma. So Krishna is saying we are foolish Atmas. Right? If you restrain the sense of action but mind dwells on those objects, such a person is a pretender. Mityacharaha. And is also Vimudhatma, means foolish soul. So again, what is the connection with the last verse? In the bhakti or devotional process, you are gradually purifying, whereas in these other process, you are trying to forcibly purify, but then you're not eating that thing that is bad, like meat or fish or eggs, but your mind is dwelling upon it. Arey, I used to eat tandoori chicken previously, but now I'm not eating. Am I losing something? Right? So those kind of thoughts, so the mind is dwelling on the sense objects. Then such a person is called Mityacharaha, pretender. Okay, somebody read the purport.
There are many pretenders who refuse to work in Krishna consciousness but make a show of meditation, while actually dwelling there within the mind upon the sense enjoyment. Such pretenders may also speak on dry philosophy in order to bluff sophisticated followers. But according to this verse, these are the greatest cheaters. For sense enjoyment, one can act in any capacity of the social order. But if one follows the rules and regulations of his particular status, he can make gradual progress in purifying his existence. But he who makes a big being of show of being a yogi while actually searching for the objects of sense gratification, must be called the greatest cheater, even though he sometimes speaks of philosophy. His knowledge has no value because the effect of such a sinful man's knowledge are taken away by the illusory energy of the Lord. Such a pretender's mind is always impure, and therefore his show of yogic meditation has no value whatsoever.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very tricky. Sometimes they'll say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I don't want to marry. I'm, beyond all this stuff, this, that." And the next thing you know, they get into some affair with some lady and they'll say, "Okay, oh, what happened? Oh, something happened. It just happened like that," right? So, what happens? Because their senses were never under control, they were just pretending. So, there's no point in pretending, no need to pretend. There should be gradual progress, and we should aspire for that by consciously practicing Krishna consciousness, which is a set of activities, right? Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing, chanting, Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Lord, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, doing Archana, doing the worship, and then Dasyam, becoming a servant, and finally Atma Nivedanam, surrender to the Lord. So these are the processes of Krishna consciousness. You could be in any one of these platforms, but gradually work your way upwards, which takes time. It's not immediate. 3-7. Yastva Indriyani Manasa
Yasti indriyani manasa
Nitya, Niyam Arabhyate Arjuna
Namyarapate Arjuna
Karmendriya hi Karma Yogam
Karmendriyaihi karmayogam
Asaktaha sa Vishishyate.
asaktaha sa vishishyate.
So, on the other hand, so previously covered one concept. Now he's saying, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. So, instead of pretending that you controlled, you just try to control by doing Krishna conscious activities like coming and associating with devotees like you're all doing. You are now associating with Prabhupada directly through his books, right? So that is better. Trying to control rather than saying I've controlled, wear some saffron cloth, and then very soon give up those things. Okay, somebody read the purport.
Instead of becoming a pseudo transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. The prime Swartha Gati or goal of self interest is to reach Vishnu. The whole institution of Varna and Ashrama is designed to help us reach this goal of life. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment, and in that way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts slow bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. A sincere sweeper in the street is far better than the charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living.
Very good. Sushila Prabhupada compares a sweeper in the street as being better than charlatan, means quack, pretender, meditator. So Swartha. Swartha, what is our real Swartha? Selfishness is that we should go back to Vishnu. People think Swartha is like, oh, I want to buy a bigger car, a bigger house, this, that. But that is only one level of Swartha. Real Swartha is, oh, I am a soul. I need to some or the other work through the process and go back to Vishnu. That should be the real Swartha. 3.8 Niyatam kuru karmatvam
Niyatam kuru karma
Kuru karmatvam
karma jyayo hi akarmanah
karma
karma jayo hi
jnaya
akarmana
sharirayatrapi cha te
sharira
shariratrapi chate
na prasidhyeda karmanah.
na
na prasidheta karmanah.
karmana.
So akarma, the concept of akarma has been introduced here. And this is something that will appeal to all of us because we are all working people. Krishna says, perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work. So, work but be Krishna conscious. That's the idea. See the point? Most common question in any ISKCON class is, but Prabhuji, I have a family. How can I stop all this? Who asked you to stop? Krishna, did he say stop? I mean, 1866 says Sarva Dharman Parityaja. But you'll come to that point at one point in your lifetime. But it didn't say stop right away, right? I mean, if you're very smart, you'll stop right away and become a brahmachari, join a temple, and never leave. But not everybody is ready to do that. So, people want to study in UTD, UNT, go get a job, go get H1, get green card, get citizenship. But I'll tell you, I've lived in this country for 31 years. If you want to do all this, then you'll grow old. You'll already be 55, 60 before you'll realize, where did my life go? It all went away. Right? So the very smart person will quickly come to senses and give up chapter 3 and adopt chapter 18. But if you're not ready, then go through chapter 3 because that is karma. Better than being a pseudo meditator. Okay, somebody read the purport, please.
There are many pseudo meditators who are misrepresent themselves as being to high parentage and great professional men who falsely pose that they have sacrificed everything for the sake of advancement in spiritual life. Lord Krishna don't want Arjuna to become a pretender. Rather, Lord desired that Arjuna perform his prescribed duties as set forth for Kshatriyas. Arjuna was a householder and a military general, and therefore it was better for him to remain as such and perform his religious duties as prescribed for the householder Kshatriya. Such activities gradually cleanse the heart of a mundane man and free him from material contamination. So, so-called renunciation for the purpose of maintenance is never approved by the Lord, nor by any religious scripture. After all, one has to maintain one's body and soul together by some work. Work should not give up. Work should not be given up capriciously. Capriciously, without purification of material propensities. Anyone who is in the material world is certainly posed of impure propensities for lording it over material nature, or in other words, for sense gratification. Such polluted propensities have to be cleared. Without doing so through prescribed duties, one should never attempt to become a so called transcendentalist, renouncing work and living at the cost of others. Pseudo transcendentalists renouncing work at the cost of others.
Yeah. So pseudo transcendentalists, what they do, they renounce work and then they expect other people to maintain them. But mind is still dwelling on sense enjoyment. And once in a while, if they get an opportunity, they'll also fall from the sannyasi position and do other kind of things. So Arjuna's position is what? Householder. He already has wife, kids, grandkids by the time they came to Battle of Kurukshetra. So for him, it is better to remain as such and perform his religious duties. So what happens that those activities will gradually cleanse the heart of a mundane man. So that kind of purification is required because it's very difficult to like suddenly hear the Bhagavad Gita and immediately transform yourself, right? So we have to gradually purify ourselves and come to that platform. 3.9 Yajnartat karmano nyatra
Yajnathat karmano yatra
loko ayam karma bandhanah
loko ayam karma bandhanaha
tadartham karma kaunteya
tadartham karma kaunteya
mukta sangha samacharam.
mukta sangaha samachata
So how many times the
samachara.
word karma is here? Yajnatat karmano lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya, right? The whole thing is karma, 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 action, action, action. So how should work be done? As a sacrifice for Vishnu. So if you're studying, it's a sacrifice for Vishnu. If it is you're working, it has to be a sacrifice for Vishnu. That is why they say for grihasthas, householders, whatever you earn, you have to give a part of that to propagating Krishna consciousness, like distributing Prabhupada's books or whatever the case might be.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a small doubt.
Yes.
What is the sacrifice for Vishnu here mentioned? Like what are
Sacrifice, suppose
the
if you
sacrifice?
work, right? Like there was one person in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he used to just make boats, cups with leaves, and he would give half of his income to propagating Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's vision of Krishna consciousness. So when you work, you get money, right? Sacrifice means you are just giving it up back for Krishna.
Yes.
That is how all the temples that we see are built in Krishna consciousness. Like the Dallas temple, all the Prabhupada disciples, they gave away their salary to build that temple. They gave away their wealth to build that temple.
And Prabhuji, sacrifice in the mode of sacrifice in studying is with respect to time, or we are sacrificing our enjoyments or material propensities. Is that what we
See,
are
I
sacrificing?
mean, everybody is sacrificing, right? For example, you are sacrificing a happy life in India. You came to America so that you can study with the hope that you'll have a better position. But you are actually sacrificing your time, your health, staying away from parents, staying away from your country. All that is a sacrifice. But work should be done as sacrifice for Vishnu, not sacrifice for somebody else. Right now we are sacrificing for so-called material masters. Right, when we do a late night phone call with India, right, as IT walas, you're sacrificing your time, you're sacrificing your health, and then you get the money. Then you sacrifice the money for Vishnu. So better, that's why. See, for example, this 1 hour, 1.5 hour, we are sacrificing for Vishnu, right? We are talking about his topics, Krishna's topics.
Yes.
This is also a sacrifice. Instead of this, you can go to sleep. You can work in a gas station and make $15 in that 1 hour. But you are sacrificing for Vishnu. But then, how much else are we willing to sacrifice, right? The whole life? Like brahmacharis join the ashram, sannyasis give up everything and travel and preach. They have given up their whole life, sacrificed their whole life for Vishnu. So it's the various grades. And you have to do what you're able to do, right? You cannot just go on top of your head. You can only do certain things. Does that answer your question, Helen?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So maybe Divya, please read the purport.
Since one has to work even for the simple maintenance of the body, the prescribed duties for a particular social position and quality are so made that the purpose can be fulfilled. Yajna means Lord Vishnu or sacrificial performances. All sacrificial performances are also meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. The Vedas enjoin Yagnove Vishnu. In other words, the same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serves Lord Vishnu. Krishna consciousness is therefore performance of yajna as it is prescribed in this verse. The Varnashrama institution also aims at satisfying Lord Vishnu. Varnashrama Charvata Purushena Parah Puman Vishnu Aradhyate in Vishnu Purana 3.8.8. Therefore, one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Any other work done in this material world will be a cause of bondage. For both good and evil work have their reactions, and any reaction binds the performer. Therefore, one has to work in Krishna consciousness to satisfy Krishna or Vishnu. And while performing such activities, one is in a liberated stage. This is the great art of doing work, and in the beginning, this process requires very expert guidance. One should therefore act very diligently under the expert guidance of a devotee of Lord Krishna or under the direct institution of Lord Krishna himself, under whom Arjuna had the opportunity to work. Nothing should be performed for sense gratification, but everything should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. This practice will not only save one from the reaction of work, but also gradually elevate one to a transcendental loving service of the Lord, which alone can raise one to the kingdom of God.
Very powerful, huh? So we have to be very careful. Right now we are not doing it. Work should be done only for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Right? As students, you are studying so that you can work and make some other person rich. And then what will happen? You have the bondage. They also have the bondage because they are also within that material realm only. Unless we do it for the pleasure of Krishna, we will get karma. And for karma, we have to take one more janma. Very, 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 very tricky. You see that? Karma leads to janma. So what do we do?
Work under expert guidance, Prabhu.
Yeah, that requires very expert guidance under the guidance of a spiritual master. For example, my spiritual master has given me some things to do. Like I manage his bank accounts, certain bank accounts. Because he's a sannyasi, he doesn't touch money. And then have to properly use that in the service of Krishna. Under his guidance again. I'm giving a class on Bhagavad Gita right now. Again under guidance. I'm writing this book, Science of Reincarnation. Again under guidance. Only today my Guru Maharaj sent me an email saying, hey, look at this article. There was some article in Times of India where they were talking about Dr. Stuart Hameroff, who talks about reincarnation. So while he asked me to write this book, he's also researching himself and sending me links. Read this link, read that link. Right? I mean, Arjuna had the direct instruction of Lord Krishna, but for us, it will be a representative, just like Prabhupada's disciples will guide us, or disciples will guide us. This is very important. Nothing should be performed for sense gratification. Indriya tripti. Indriyas are there, karmendriyas and gyanendriyas. If we only work for their indriya tripti, then we will have been bondage. The gunas will come and those ropes will bind us from all directions. Everything should be done for satisfaction of Krishna. See, when Prabhupada writes, right, every word is a golden word. It's like a garland of pearls. Where did this line come from? Everything should be done for satisfaction of Krishna. It came from his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He coined the term Krishnarte Akila Chesta. Chesta means activity, Akila means everything. Krishnarte, for whom? For Krishna's sake, you should do everything. Then what will happen? This practice will not only save one from reaction of work, but also elevate one to the loving service of the Lord. Right now we are doing a little bit of seva. But is it loving enough? We don't know. Because why? We are doing reactive work. We are doing work which has reaction. And in the previous two verses, he talks about the concept of akarmanaha, means doing work that does not have any kind of karma. That is called akarmanaha. So when we do things that don't have karma, then we are free. We don't have any bondage. So very, 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 very tricky. Do it under guidance and do it properly. Varnashrama Purushena Parah Puman Vishnur. So what is Aradhana for? For Krishna or Vishnu. Aradhana. Radha is there. So you're using Radha, not using, but you are praying to Radha to serve Krishna. Pretend. Sahayagnya Yajnaha Praja Shristvam
Yajna praja swishta praja swist.
Purovacha Prajapatihi
Purovacha prajapatihi.
Anena Prasavisyadvam
Anena prasavisyadham.
Esavostva Ishtakamadhuk.
Yeshavostha ishtakam.
So Krishna is saying, what is he saying? In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and devatas, demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, be thou, be happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So, two-stage process. Live happily, don't be frustrated in this material world, and then do yajna so that you can achieve liberation. And if you do everything as a yajna, then there is no risk. So that is why we say whatever you cook, you think of it like a yajna. You have a fire, on that fire you put a vessel, put some oil, put some spices, put some vegetables, make sabji, offer it to Krishna, and then eat it. So then Krishna Arti Akila Chesta, all the activities are for Krishna. Because you're working hard to make money, and with that you're buying groceries, and then you're making bhoga, and you're offering it to Krishna. So why did we come to the material world is answered in 3.10. To do what? To perform sacrifices. We didn't come here to learn Java, C++, Python. We came here to perform yajna. So in the Kali Yuga, the classical fire sacrifices are not possible, too expensive. You have to buy a lot of ghee, like 20 kgs of ghee. Each kg of ghee will be like $20. So $400 gone there. And then you have to buy so many grains to put in the yajna, fruits and flowers. So in yajna will cost at least $1,000. That is why in the Kali Yuga, the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he gave Sankirtan yajna. Just chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. So that is our yajna. Because you cannot do the yajna like in the previous ages. You cannot even afford it. Forget about doing it. Okay, somebody read the purport.
Material, material creation by the Lord of creatures, Vishnu, is a chance offered to the conditioned souls to come back home, back to Godhead. All living entities within the material creation are conditioned by material nature because of their forgetfulness of their relationship to Vishnu or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic principles are to help us understand this eternal relation. As it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Vedaisa cha sarvair ahameva vedyo. Sarvair ahameva vedyo. The Lord says that the purpose of Vedas is to understand Him. In the Vedic hymns, it is said, Patim Vishwasya Meshwaram. Therefore, the Lord of living entities is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also 2.4.20, Srila Sukadeva Goswami describes the Lord as Pati in so many ways. Shreyarpati, Yajnaprati, Prajapati, Dhyam, Dhyam Prati, Lokapate, Dharapati, Pathir Gatis Chan, Chandakya Vrishne Sata Satavatham, Prasidhantam Me, Bhagavan Samas Satam Pati. The Prajapati is Lord Vishnu, and he is the Lord of all living creatures, all worlds, and all beauties, and protector of everyone. The Lord created this material world to enable the conditioned souls to learn how to perform yajna sacrifices for the satisfaction of Vishnu, so that while in the material world they can live very comfortably without anxiety, and after finishing the present material body they can enter into the kingdom of God. That is the whole program for the conditioned soul. By performance of yajna, the conditioned souls gradually become Krishna conscious and become godly in all respects. In the age of Kali, the Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the names of God, is recommended by the Vedic scriptures, and this transcendental system was introduced by Lord Chaitanya for the deliverance of all men in this age. Sankirtan Yajna and Krishna consciousness go well together. Lord Krishna, in his devotional form as Lord Chaitanya, is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows, with special reference to Sankirtan Yajna. Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yajnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajnahi Sumedasaha. In this age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna. Other yajnas prescribed in the Vedic literature are not easy to perform in this age of Kali, but the Sankirtan Yajna is easy and sublime for all purposes, as recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, also in 9.14.
Excellent. Yeah. So this is what I was trying to explain previously. That in the Kali Yuga, the chanting of the names of God is recommended in Vedic scriptures. And it is introduced by Lord Chaitanya. So he is like the founder of this Sankirtan Yajna transcendental system. In the age of Kali, people who are endowed with intelligence will worship the Lord by Sankirtan Yajna. Other yajnas are not easy. So why do you want to do the tough ones, right? Do what is recommended. Simple. 311. Devan bhavyatanena
Devan Bhavya Tanena
te deva bhavyayantu
Ye Deva Bhavyayantu Vaha
parasparam bhavyayantah
Parasparam Bhavyayantaha
shreya param avapsyata.
Shreya Shreyaha Param Avapsyastaha.
Very nice. So you see bhavyayanta 3 times. What does it mean? Pleasing. Who are we pleasing? Vishnu, right? Vishnu is the Prajapati. You saw that in the last verse. Prajapati, Lokapati, so on, right? He's the boss of everything. Whether you like it or not, he's the boss. And you can start rebelling or complaining, but still he's the boss. So that is how it is. The demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign for all. So Krishna's program is not like you come here and start crying and being in poverty or anything like that. If you do these sacrifices, automatically there is wealth. Why is there poverty? Because people are not performing these sacrifices. Simple. God's design is not to keep you and me poor. He wants us to be prosperous. To do what? To do more yajna. You do a little bit of yajna, you will get prosperity. And with that, you do more yajna, you will become more prosperous. Prosperous doesn't mean just financial. See, some people are very rich, but then they cannot eat. I was told in Hyderabad there's one, store. The owner, he cannot eat anything. He's very wealthy, but he cannot eat because of stomach ulcer or something like that. So what's the point of having all that money, right? So wealth, you typically we only think of Dhana Lakshmi, but there is Arogya Lakshmi, health, Veera Lakshmi, right? Vijaya Lakshmi for victory. They are Ashtalakshmis. And those are the primary Lakshmis. Then there are 16,108 other Lakshmis. Right? Krishna has how many wives? 16,108. So they are all Lakshmis, gopis of course, but they all have opulences. So we only think in terms of in the material world because somehow or the other money became central. Like my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, I was just listening to his lecture 3 or 4 days ago. He was talking about the optionality of money. The modern demoniac society somehow created money as a medium. Previously, it was not like that, right? Like the Vaishya would grow the crops, he would feed the cows, cows will give the milk, milk is distributed, grain is distributed, the and a barber will come to your home and then shave your head and you will give him some cloth and some grain. It's not even barter system. They are providing services and you give. Like one Vaishya will support many Shudras like that. And Kshatriya will support many Vaishyas. And Brahmanas will give advice to all of them. And the king will give them enough grain so that they don't have to beg anywhere else. So you don't even need money according to original Vedic society. I remember when I was young, the barber used to come to my grandfather's house. He would give us haircut. He would shave my grandfather's head, and my grandfather has this big gadi full of grain. So he would not even count how much it is. He would just open the door. Some amount will fall in a bag. He'll wrap the bag and give it to that person. Right? Money came later, and money is now the root of all evil. Because then now without money you cannot even do anything. But it was not like this previously. Even 50, 70 years ago, it was not like this. There was this whole Vedic ecosystem of people serving each other and they were taken care of. They were given grain, they were given cloth, and you would build simple homes with mud. Now you buy this complex home and then become a donkey working for 30 years to pay the mortgage. And by the time you pay the mortgage, in the meantime, either you are dead or by the time you pay the mortgage, you are so sick that you cannot even enjoy the house anymore. So, what do we need to do? Only sacrifices. Prosperity will be given by Vishnu, and everything else will take care of it. Right? And when you work in the office, it's not like your boss is giving the money. Your past karma is giving you certain amount of wealth. That's it. Work is just incidental. Okay, somebody read the purport. Quick, real quick.
The demigods are empowered administrators of material affairs. The supply of air, light, water, and all other benedictions for maintaining the body and the soul of every living entity is entrusted to the demigods, who are innumerable assistants in different parts of the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Their pleasure and their displeasures are dependent on the performance of yajnas by the human being. Some of the yajnas are meant to satisfy particular demigods, but even so doing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped in all yajnas as the chief beneficiary. It is stated also in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna himself is the beneficiary of all kinds of yajnas. Bhoktaram yajna tapasam. Therefore, ultimate satisfaction of the yagnapati is the chief purpose of all yajnas. When these yajnas are perfectly performed, naturally the demigods in charge of the different departments of supply are pleased, and there is no scarcity in the supply of natural products. Performance of yajnas has many side benefits, ultimately leading to liberation from material bondage. By performance of yajnas, all activities being purified. As it is stated in the Vedas, ahara suddhau sattva suddhihi, sattva suddhau dhruva smritihi, smriti lambhe sarva granthinam viparmoksaha. By
Vipramoksha.
Vipramoksha, sorry. By performance of yajnas, one eatables become sanctified, and by eating sanctified foodstuffs, one's very existence become purified. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified, and when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation, and all these combined together lead to Krishna consciousness, the great necessity of present day society.
That is why we cook nicely with pure ingredients and then we offer it to Krishna. Ahara shuddha, sattva suddha. Our sattva, our consciousness becomes purified. Sattva suddha, dura smriti, our memory becomes purified. Smriti lambhe, I mean, if we have proper memory, sarva grantinam vipramokshaha, means our entire existence becomes purified. And then what when we our existence become purified, we think of the path of liberation. Because we came here, what? In the beginning of time, what happened? Demigods, a generation of men and demigods were sent to do what? To perform? Perform what?
Sacrifices.
Sacrifices. So we didn't come here to eat meat. We didn't come here to drive a Honda Accord. We didn't come here to get married. We came here to perform yajna, and we are forgetting that. Right? The soul came to the material world to perform yajna, and we totally forgot that. And we are doing something else. So, ahara shuddhau, what happens? Sattva suddhihi. Sattva suddhau, dhruva smritihi. Smriti lambe, sarva granthi nam vipramokshaha. All our senses, all our existence, sarva granthi nam, all the entire existence gets liberated, mokshaha, which means actually purified. Because senses don't get liberated, the soul gets liberated. Okay? So, as you can see, Bhagavad Gita is already becoming pretty powerful by the third chapter itself. By the 18th chapter, Krishna says, okay, forget all this. Just surrender unto me, I'll take you back. Initially, he's giving various options, right? And then finally saying, all this is waste, Baba, just come to me. 3:12. Ishtan bhogan hi vo devam
Istan bhogan hi ho deva
dashyante yajna bhavitaham
दास्यन्ते यज्ञभाविताः
ter dattan aprad no apradhyaibhyo
तैर्दत्तान् अप्राध्यायेभ्यो
यो भुङ्क्ते स्तेन एव सः.
यो भुङ्क्ते स्तेन ये वशः.
Bhunkte means eating or enjoying. In charge of various necessity of life, the demigods or devatas, being satisfied by performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. So our job is only to perform yajna. Devatas will say they'll give. So where is the boss in the picture? Actually, there's no boss. Boss is just like a via medium, giving you salary. If you perform yajna, the Lord supplies all the necessities via the demigods, who are proxies, who are his employees basically. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to demigods in return is certainly a thief. That is why we have to first offer whatever we cook to the Supreme Lord. Any new clothes that you get, also you should offer. New vehicle. See, when we do this car puja, it's not like you're doing the puja to the car. Who are you doing puja to? Vishnu or Krishna. And then you're saying, oh my Lord, this is your car. Allow me to drive it. Many people think we are doing puja to the car. No, you're not doing puja to the car. You're doing puja to Vishnu. So anything should be performed as yajna, and if you don't offer it back to the Lord, then we become a thief. Because who is giving? The Lord is giving through demigods. Who does it belong to? It belongs to Him. He's allowing us to enjoy those gifts. But at the same time, we have to again offer them back. Okay, purport.
The demigods are authorized supplying agents on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of demigods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For one who cannot understand what the Personality of Godhead is, sacrifice to the demigods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different demigods is also on the same basis, namely according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals is recommended. But for those who are in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. But ultimately, all yajnas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary man, at least 5 yajnas, known as Pancha Mahayajna, are necessary. One should know, however, that all the necessities of life that the human society requires are supplied by the demigod agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Take, for example, all the eatables of human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar, etc. For the persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for non-vegetarians like meat, mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarians like meat, none of which can be manufactured by men. Then again, take for example heat, light, water, air, etc., which are also necessities of life. No one of them can be manufactured by the human society. Without the Supreme Lord, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, breeze, etc., without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on the from the Lord. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, magnesium, and so many essentials, for all of which are supplied by the agents of Lord, with the purpose that we should we should make proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization. leading to the ultimate goal of life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. This aim of life is attained by the performance of yajnas. By performance of yajnas, if we forget the purpose of human life and simply take the supplies from the agents of Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in the material existence, which is not the purpose of creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy because they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification. Nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated this easiest performance of yajna, namely the Sankirtan yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of Krishna consciousness.
Hmm. So can you summarize it for the class, what you just read?
Like everything, there are so many resources we are getting from demigods, and that should be uh, taken while taken as a written for yajna, not for sense gratification, and it should be used by us in Krishna conscious way. And there are different types of supplies which demigods provide in the mode of ignorance and mode of goodness. Mode of ignorance were resources are generally worshippers of Lord Goddess Kali, and mode of goodness people worship Lord Vishnu.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So that is the general thinking, right? So the guidance is clearly given. Our job is to perform sacrifice. Everything else, just leave it to the demigods and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They'll give, again, they'll not give unlimited, right? They'll give it based on what your previous karma is, what you deserve, what you really need, what will not make you proud. There's so many factors. Karmana daivanetrena, based on your karma and based on Lord's supervision. Jantur deho patyaye means you'll get the body, type of body. And that body is capable of enjoying or suffering. So money has nothing to do with it, because you can have a lot of money and still suffer because your body cannot consume anything, right? If you're diabetic and then you make 20 different varieties as a part of yajna to Krishna, you can still not consume it. So there are other factors as well. Yajnasishtasinah santo
Yajnasishta santo
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
मुच्यन्ते सर्वकिल्बिषैः
भुञ्जन्ते ते त्व अघं पाप
भुञ्जन्ते अघं पाप
ये पचन्ते आत्मकारणात्.
ये पच्यन्ते आत्मकारणात्.
So Krishna has now introduced the concept of papam, sin, right? So now he's going deep into the science of sacrifice, of what you do, what you should not do, and the papa. So the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment eat only sin. It's almost like you put sin on your plate and eat it if you go to a restaurant and eat it. Because you are preparing it for personal sense enjoyment. You're throwing some money, and the chef will prepare something for you without Krishna in the picture. So it is no longer a sacrifice, and therefore what you will get? Sin. So what you do, the best way is go to your kitchen, start Agni Dev, fire, and then recite mantras, Hare Krishna mantra, put the oil, put the spices, put the vegetables, and cook, offer it to Krishna, then eat. Then there is no sin. How nice it is. People may say, then what if I travel? Then cook and take with you. Rotis can stay there for 3 days. The devotees of Supreme Lord, or the persons who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas. And they're always in love with the Lord. as described in Brahma Samhita. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. So what are these santas doing? Being in compact of love with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda or Mukunda or Krishna, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. Whether you buy a bike or a car or clothes or whatever you cooked in your kitchen, again, Krishna eats patram pushpam phalam toyam, right? He doesn't eat chickenam muttonam, so no chicken, no mutton, like that. So therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service. So remember we talked about the 9-1, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, like that. So in friendship, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, in surrender, in Shravanam and Kirtanam. Right now we are in the Shravanam Kirtanam platform. So you're hearing and you are singing the glories of Lord. And we'll be there for some time. Vishnu Smaranam. Then slowly, out of the blue, day or night, you will just start thinking of Krishna. Smaranam. That memory keeps coming back to you. Then you do Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Archanam, you do Archana. Vandanam, worship. Dasyam, you become a servant. Sakyam, you become a friend. Atmanivedanam, you surrender everything. These performances of yajna keep them aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. See, in the material world, the general flow is sin. Right? Everything you see around you is sinful. So it is like a vaccine. By eating prasadam, mahaprasadam, it's like a vaccine. It will prevent you from going in the negative direction. So if you prepare food for self gratification, what happens? You are first of all thieves. You'll get karma for that. But you're also eater of sins. Papam is also there. How can a person be happy if he's both a thief and a sinful? And sinful. It's not possible. Prabhupada says. Therefore, in order for people to become happy, in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtan Yajna, which means now all of you should teach your friends and relatives this process of Sankirtan Yajna. And when you teach that, Krishna will be pleased. You know why? Because you are showing genuine concern for other souls, other Atmas. Right? They are doing papam and you are actually teaching them not to do papam. And finally concludes, usually Prabhupada's last line sentence would be a punch. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world. Think about it. Is there a solution for Gaza Strip problem? Israel, Gaza. Is there a solution for Pakistan versus India on Kashmir? Is there a solution to Ukraine and Russia problem? Why? Because there is not sufficient amount of Sankirtan Yajna being performed. So go out, take kartals. I went to India in September for His Holiness Rompad Maharaj Yatra. Then we went to smaller towns. And one place I bought kartals. Only 30 rupees. He just charged 30 rupees for kartal. That's it. And then I bought them. Now I take them to Swadeshi every Saturday evening and we sing Hare Krishna mantra there, Sankirtan with kartals. So the best things in life are almost free. All you have to do is take a piece of kartal, like a pair of kartals, stand in a public place and start singing Hare Krishna mantra. One person came and said, "Oh, can I get juice for you?" One person came and said, "Can I get tea for you?" Everybody now wants to serve you. Why? Because you are singing the holy name of Krishna. So Sankirtan Yajna is very powerful. Like when Devatas, my Guru Maharaj was saying, when Devatas were looking from the spiritual world, they'll only see where Sankirtan Yajna is happening. Everything else is like a dark matter for them. They don't even care. Only where there is Sankirtan Yajna happening, they will pay attention. Every other place, they'll just simply ignore, gloss over and go away. Doesn't matter if you're Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates. They'll just gloss over those people. Okay, so it is 3:36. Chaitanya Prabhu, what should I do now? Stop? Okay, what about the students? Should we go or stop?
It depends on you, Prabhuji. Like if you have time, you can cover like rest of the two verses
Okay,
as well.
I have time. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
What we are doing is also Sankirtan Yajna. So, to the extent we do this, we won't do other sinful activity because everything else in the world is sinful. Annad bhavanti bhutani
Annad bhavanti bhutani
parjanyadanna sambhavah
prajanyad
Parjanyana
annasambhavaha
sambhava
yajnat bhavati parjanyo
yajnad
yajnat bhavati
bhavati
parjanyo
yajnah karma samudbhavah.
yajnah karma
yajnaha karma
samudbhava.
samudbhava.
So, see how many times he says yajna, 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 right? So, anna means food grains. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from what? Rains. Rains are produced by what?
Doing
Silver
yajna.
halide treating in the clouds? No, they are performance of yajna. And how does yajna happen? Prescribed duties. So if Brahmanas do their pujas, Kshatriyas protect the kingdom, Vaishyas take care of the cows and the grains, and Shudras support these three different parties, then there is abundance of food for everyone. Right now also there is abundance of food. But what are people doing? They are hoarding food, right? With the anticipation of getting higher price, they will hoard. Means they will store the food and not release it into the market. Okay, so somebody please read this.
Srila
Prasad
Badukar,
maybe.
Srila Baladeva Vidya Bhushana, a great commentator on the Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows: E Indriya Angatya Abhishitham Yajnam Sarvesharam Vishnum Abhicharya Tach Chesam Ashnanti Tena Tad Deha Yatrena Sampadayanti Te Santaha Sarveshwarasya Yajna Purushaya Bhakta
Purushasya. Purushasya. Means of
Purushasya
the Yajna Purusha. That's what it means.
Bhakta Sarva Klibeshair Anadikala Vividhair Atmanubhava Pratibandhakair Nikhileya Paper Vimunchate. The Supreme Lord, who is known as the Yajna Purusha or the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all the demigods who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are appointed officers who manages material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord who are in Krishna consciousness offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only are past sinful reactions in the body vanquished, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects a person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to material affection, and who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reaction of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful action, and this prepares the next body to resemble hogs and dogs to suffer the resultant reaction of all sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord, food offered to Vishnu, is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subjected contamination. Food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human beings eats different kinds of food grains, vegetables, fruit, etc., and the animals eat the refuse of the food grains and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field, not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rains are controlled by demigods like Indra, Sun, Moon, etc. And they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices, therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. This is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically Sankirtana Yajna, prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply.
Very good. Now, can you summarize it for the class?
So can you go up a bit where uh, where we are offering the food to Lord, and we says that we have to worship demigods, like in this today day and world, that we need to worship our demigods as well. Why do we want to worship God? But the demigods are part of the Lord as well. They are like limbs and hands are there. So if you satisfy Lord, this demigod becomes all satisfied as well.
Very
And
good.
also, like, and the next paragraph, Prabhupada talks about whether if you want to, we want to eat vegetables, fruits, and everything which comes directly from the God, or there are other animals who eat, other human beings who eat meat, fish. For them, we need to grow the vegetables. So we should not depend on any big factories. We should we should depend on foods like vegetables, fruits, etc.
Very good. Very good. I think you summarized well. So, there is no need to eat meat. You can have ample grains and vegetables by performance of yajna, and then use that to perform more yajna. In this way, that cycle just keeps continuing. And then in the Kali Yuga, Sankirtan Yajna is the best because it is recommended for this age. And practically, I think it is very easy, right? Sankirtan Yajna is much easier than doing other forms of complex yajnas, going to Himalayas, you know, doing Ashtanga Yoga, standing on your head upside down. Right? So, all these are very, very complex ways of doing things. Whereas Sankirtan Yajna is pretty simple. Eat prasadam, dance, and chant. That's it. Only three activities. Karma brahmodbhavam vidhi
Karmo Brahmo Bham Vidhi
brahmaksh brahmakshara samudbhavam
Brahmakshara
Brahmakshara
Samudbhavam
Samudbhavam
tasmat sarva katham brahma
Tasmat Sarvagatam
Sarvagatam
Brahma
nityam yajne pratishthitam.
Nityam
Nityam
Yajne Pratishtitam.
Ishtitam.
Again, in this verse, how many times this Brahma comes? This is not like the Chaturmukha Brahma, four-headed Brahma. This Brahma means Brahman, right? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwaniti Sabjate. Brahman means undifferentiated, Paramatma is localized in your heart, and Bhagwan is in his own abode in the spiritual world. So regulated activities are prescribed in Vedas, and Vedas are directly manifested from Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Brahma means Parabrahman, Krishna. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendent is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So when we say the transcendence means it should be in sacrifice. Okay, somebody read the purport.
Yajnartha karma, or the necessity of work for the satisfaction of Krishna only, is more expressly stated in this verse. If we have to work for the satisfaction of the Yajna Purusha, Vishnu, then we must find out the direction of work in Brahman or the transcendental Vedas. The Vedas are therefore codes of working directions. Anything performed without the direction of the Vedas is called vikarma or unauthorized sinful work. Therefore, one should always take direction from the Vedas to be saved from the reaction of work. As one has to work in ordinary life by the direction of the state, one similarly has to work under the direction of the supreme state of the Lord. Such directions in the Vedas are directly manifested from the breathing of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said, Asya Mahato Bhutasya Nishvasitam Yetad Yad Rigvedo Yajurvedo Samaveda Tharvangriha Saha. The four Vedas, namely the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda, and Atharvana Veda, are all emanations from the breathing of the great personality of Godhead. Brahmaranyaka Upanishad, Brihadamranyaka Upanishad, 4.5.11. The Lord, being omnipotent, can speak by breathing air for as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. The Lord has the omnipotence to perform through each of his senses the actions of all other senses. In other words, Lord can speak through his breathing, and he can impregnate by his eyes. In fact, it is said that he glanced over the material nature and thus fathered all living entities. After creating or impregnating the conditioned souls into the womb of material nature, he gave his direction in the Vedic wisdom as to how such conditioned souls can return home back to Godhead. We should always remember that the conditioned souls in material nature are all eager for material enjoyment. But the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's perverted desires. But the Vedic directions are so made that one can satisfy one's own perverted desires, then return to Godhead, having finished his so-called enjoyment. It is the chance for the conditioned souls to attain liberation. Therefore, the conditioned souls must try to follow the process of yajna by becoming Krishna conscious. Even those who have not followed the Vedic injunctions may adopt the principles of Krishna consciousness, and that will make the place for performance of Vedic yajnas or karmas.
Very good. So explain to the class the summary.
It is said that Lord is like the Vedas have come out from the breathing of Lord,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the Yajna Purusha. And everyone should work under the instructions of Vedas. Or if we move away from Vedas, it is called unauthorized sinful work or vikarma. And Supreme Personality of Godhead is omnipotent. He can speak through his breathing. He can impregnate through his eyes, through his vision. And it is said that he glanced over the material nature and then thus fathered all the living entities. And he gave Vedas to the conditioned souls for them to return back to his abode by following the Vedic uh, rules and regulations.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. So I like this sentence very much. The Vedas are codes of working directions. right? No, not this one. This one. Codes of working directions. So just like if you buy any product in a store, it has directions on how to use. So Vedas are codes. So where is my mouse?
Here for conditions.
Yeah, go ahead.
For conditioned souls, they want to enjoy materially. So in Vedas, both enjoyment of material nature and liberation after enjoyment is also given. That so everyone should follow Vedas.
Yeah. So, but the trick is in Vedas, you have mostly 90% plus of enjoyment of how to enjoy material nature. Only 4 or 5% is there for how to get out of this material nature. So you have to be very careful. If you do too much Vedic study without proper guidance, you will come to exact opposite conclusion that you should enjoy this world. That is where acharyas come into picture and then they throw light. So all that says you do this puja for getting a good husband, you do this that puja for doing this. All of those are material enjoyment or pleasurable things. But the actual final conclusion is Vedescha Sarvair Ahameva Vedyo. Means that Krishna is the ultimate goal of all this reading of the Vedas and so on. So that's why in certain cases it is said, come out of the Vedas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Krishna says later in the Bhagavad Gita. The three modes, Vedas are in the three modes. Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna, you actually rise over these three modes. Rise over the Vedic enjoyment. Right? So in the initial stages, yes, it's better to follow Vedas than live like cats and dogs. Live like animals. But then at some point you even rise above the enjoyment propensity given in the Vedas and come to a higher platform of transcendence and complete surrender, like that. Evam pravartitam chakram
Evam pravartitam chakram
nanu vartayatiha yaha
Nanuvadyanta
nanuvartayatiyaha
agayur indriyaramo
aghayo
Agayur Indriyan
mogam parthas jivati.
Mogam
Mogham
Partha
Partha
Sajivati.
My dear Arjun, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. There you go. If you don't follow Vedas, you're leading a life full of sin, which means large percentage of the world's population is sinful. Living only for satisfaction of senses, such a person lives in vain. Okay, whatever comes naturally, you follow that. Okay, tongue wants to eat McDonald's, you just go eat it. Eyes want to watch something, you watch it. So it becomes more and more and more sinful. Okay, somebody read the purport.
The Mamonist philosophy of work very hard, of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world, the above mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more by nature's law. This human form of life is specifically meant for self realization in either of three ways, namely karma yoga, gnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performances of the prescribed yajnas. For the transcendentalists, for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue, but those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by above mentioned cycle of yajna performances. There are different kinds of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness, therefore they need to execute pious works. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reactions of sense gratificatory work. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yajnas are directly aimed at the particular demigod mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness. Because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna conscious.
So, what is your summary?
Here, Prabhupada is trying to quote there are some people who say work very hard and enjoy the sense gratification, but they don't realize that by doing so they are getting bound to this material world and they are getting too much attached to this sense gratification, and it's hard to get out once if they get attached. So Prabhupada is mentioning for those people who are so much attached to this sense gratificatory necessities, to perform yajnas that are mentioned above, namely karma yoga and Jnana yoga and bhakti yoga. And Prabhupada also says here, this human form of life is very rare. It is said some like we get this human form of life after undergoing so many austerities and penances. So it is very crucial for us to utilize it only for self-realization. And also Prabhupada says that even if you please demigods, that is an indirect way that is leading to Krishna consciousness. We are also pleasing Krishna in a way when we plead demigods as well.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, so we are almost at 4 o'clock, so we'll stop there and continue next week. Thanks everyone for coming. So we'll meet next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Oh, by
Krishna.
the way,
Everybody.